every major movie of the 90s in chronological order, rewatched and dissected. Sick references, trivia bombs. Listen as they try to not get canceled. It's the 90s Repeated.
Hello, repeaters, and welcome to the 90s Repeated with me, Dave, Jim.
Oh, hello.
And Fish.
Why did you say and Fish? Like you didn't know who I was?
I was taking on board what had just happened with Jim's voice.
Yeah, Jim's in a funny mood, I think.
I was trying to do a Bruno impression. We'll get onto it.
Oh, we don't talk about Bruno.
This week we're repeating the 1990 British cult classic The Witches, starring Anjelica Huston, and directed by that quirky Nicolas Roeg. Cue the trailer.
From the incredible imagination of Jim Henson and director Nicolas Roeg comes a fascinating new fantasy adventure, The Witches. Join Luke on his remarkable journey. Now, the witches are on his tail, and he must scurry around their evil plots, squeak past every danger. Finally setting the trap that will save the world from the witches.
You are in for a treat.
We must stop them.
Made for £11 million, The Witches was a sort of moderate failure, making for 15.3 million globally, but would go on to be a cult classic, especially in the Great British Isles in England. I would say this is a staple of British childhood, certainly of our generation. And I think every kid of a certain age in England has watched The Witches. Jim, what's your experience with The Witches?
Watched it a lot as a kid. Watched it an awful lot. But didn't really remember that much about it. I mean, I remember being terrified by it. Remember the scary bits. And that was about it. So watching it again was a real treat, real eye-opener and reminder of my childhood.
Fish, what was your experience with The Witches?
Similar to Jim. It's one of those that's always existed. Again, I can't remember the first time I watched it, but definitely watched it a few times as a child. The one thing I would say, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, I remember it being bigger.
Yes.
In scale.
Yes.
And in rewatching it, it felt quite small, which I was surprised at. But we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. Yeah, so my experience, similar to you guys, I watched it a couple of times when I was a kid. I think it just makes a big impact, doesn't it? I mean...
When you were a kid?
Movie.
Good grief.
Not a movie you're going to forget. So I probably only watched it twice. But then, like Jim, didn't really remember it. It just has that burning image of the Grand High Witch, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even that, I didn't really remember I think because I haven't seen this movie in HD. I think that was a big revelation for me as well, just seeing it not on a VHS tape. But before we delve into The Witches, we have to do the 90s Repeated music round.
Yay.
Woo. Now, it is 7-all, and I'm going to tell you guys that we've been doing this music round since we started this podcast, and we are going to bring this music round to a close at 10. First one to 10. Music round ends, and we're going to have to come up with some new game to play at the top of the 90s Repeated, I think.
All right. Okay.
Take a little break. Maybe the music round will return, but we'll get into 10.
I like it.
So,
Okay.
this song, you really have to be fingers on buzzers, because you can get this. If you're hot on it, I believe you guys can get this within 1 second.
Oh,
if you're
God.
really on it. So you're
so much pressure.
on it. Here we go. Fingers on buzzers. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice.
Yes, it is indeed that. Well done, Jim.
Yeah, baby. Ice Ice Baby.
All right. Well done.
Right, so back to The Witches. What did we think of it? Fish, what did you think of it rewatching it?
So I really enjoyed the first half, where it's this sort of macabre, dark, really horrific, sort of twisted story.
Yeah.
And then it sort of lets itself down, I think. About halfway through, it just becomes Ratatouille. And it's a bit mouse heavy for me. And it's, as impressive as the puppetry is and all that, it just drags a bit. I was like, oh no. And like I was saying earlier, it's such a small scale film. Like the majority of it takes place in a conference room or in a restaurant, and then the rest of it's sort of mice,
Yeah.
crawling around and just like eating cheese and shit. And I was like, oh, that's a shame, because I remember it being sort of great.
So let's take that head on then. 100% with you. It's a small budget film, believe it or not. Like, it only cost 11 million. Ghost was like 20. And you feel the budget. It was like, let's get Jim Henson in here and Anjelica Huston, and then we're cutting corners on everything else.
Yes.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because while I agree the opening 30 minutes is like rock solid. In fact, a lot of the movie is rock solid until they turn into mice. You're right. It's like a rock solid movie. I was taken aback by how bad the cinematography was and how flat everything looked.
Right.
And just dull. Yeah. No, sorry to disrespect the cinematographer. I looked him up. He's a solid bloke that's obviously been working in the industry, still working, but he is no longer a cinematographer. He now works as a second unit director and is a cameraman and cinematographer on second unit. And what that tells me is this guy's a solid professional that gets stuff done quick and, gets it done, but is not like, the most artistic cinematographer. And I think that shows here, this guy is not. It's just a bit flat, isn't it? It feels like it feels like I'm watching a TV show.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you guys about this, because I wrote it down because I actually noticed it, and I don't usually notice this shit. But I wrote down loads of low angles and weird zooms. It just felt cheap.
There's weird zooms.
That's my descriptor.
I think it's also the choice of lenses that they use on a lot of these shots. Oh. So I'm not a cinematographer, I don't know, but I think they're using some kind of like, again, I could be wrong here, but like a close-up macro lens or something that shouldn't be used for the type of shot they're shooting. So everything kind of seems like warped and bulged towards the screen.
Oh, yeah,
slightly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the lenses is also to help with the puppetry. I believe that is the way they do it. Like, if you think of this looks like the Muppets.
Yeah, well, potentially. But I'm talking about just the shots with humans in, just the actors. Yeah. They're using these types of lenses where it's kind of sort of forcing the very foreground of the shot into frame more, and the background's kind of warped. And it just looks really odd. And it's okay to use those lenses like every now and again when you're kind of emphasizing a certain thing, but they use it so much. It's like constantly throughout the movie, and it just looks horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too negative and down on the film. I think this is because all of us had fond memories of it from when we were a kid. Yeah, so I think that's kind of why we're watching this.
I'm not down on it. I'm not really down on it. I did enjoy watching it. I just remember it being better, I think. So I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm coming from. In that, I remembered it being better, but it's still good, and it's blissfully short too. It's 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
It's like, it's it doesn't really outstay its welcome. But let's talk about the opening 30 minutes, which are iconic, and it's like a completely different movie, right? The first 30 minutes. So this is the thing that this gave me nightmares as a kid.
Yeah, this has stuck with me for 30 years. This shit.
Yeah, I remember being genuinely terrified and having nightmares about this bloody painting.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Jim, I'm not being hyperbolic. I did actually have nightmares about this.
And I absolutely believe you, because it is some scary shit. But I had no memory of this part of the film.
Oh,
really?
Man.
Not a bit. I completely forgot. And I think the reason I've forgotten it is, from my point of view, it's because it's really scary and they bring it up early doors, but it's never mentioned again.
No.
It never comes back. So it's like, for some reason...
Well, there was a little callback to it that I didn't notice. When I was a kid, I noticed it this time. I was like, I don't remember that. Where they've trapped another kid in a painting at the hotel.
Yeah, she taps the kid and she fades away. I don't remember that one either. Should we explain what we're talking about for anyone who doesn't actually
so for
understand?
those that haven't seen it, I don't think it's really spoilerific. I'm happy to talk about the whole film.
I don't think we need to worry about spoilers for the Witches.
There's no spoilers on this one.
Yeah.
So basically, The opening 30 minutes of the movie, it's not even 30 minutes, like the opening 20, is a backstory sort of establishing that witches are scary, yeah, and it's a prequel. It's kind of the backstory of the grandmother character in this film. So the movie's central characters are the grandmother and her grandson Luke, and the grandmother's encountered witches in the past. She's got a bit of experience. She's kind of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the witches.
Luke,
She's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yes, there is a bit of that, isn't there?
yeah, there is totally. I couldn't stop hearing
I
it.
know. I could. She sounds exactly like Aunt Beru. So
She
yeah,
does.
there
She
is.
sounds exactly
Yeah.
like her. Luke, your blue
It's like
milk's
they-
ready.
Luke, tell your uncle if he gets a translator, be sure it speaks Bocce.
Luke! Luke, it's dinner time. Luke! Luke, dinner time.
Yeah. I gotta go to Tashi Station and get some power converters. I was expecting him to say that when he was up the tree. Yeah, so there's a backstory with the grandmother and the Grand High Witch. They've got history, they've got beef, and it's because she turned her best friend into a painting. She transported this little girl into a painting, and
it's
this
fucked
girl is
up.
trapped in the painting, and her mother and father must watch her grow old in oil ink.
Die. I think what's really creepy about it is it's never really established what happens to the kids. It's sort of they don't murder them. They sort of establish in the film that because that would leave evidence. So it's like, what do the witches do? Do they just make them disappear?
Yeah.
And then they have to go somewhere? Like they have to be turned into mice or they have to go into a painting?
Well, just taking the movie at face value, and given that there's another kid in the painting at the hotel, I think this is a thing that witches do. They put kids in paintings.
they disappear children into paintings.
Into paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrific.
Awful.
So while watching this, and I'm being remembered that I was traumatized and had nightmares about it, I began thinking this is like one of the this character to me, this storyline is like one of the great tragedies of cinema. That like this kid just dies and she's not rescued. They don't come back and get her. And I was like, in what other movie does that happen? Do they just mercilessly murder a child and then never rescue the kid? I couldn't think of any.
Well, only in horror.
Schindler's List.
Jesus.
That little girl in the red coat.
Yeah,
Well,
but exactly. This is a movie for kids in which a kid is killed in the opening 30 minutes, and there's no do-overs. There's no comeback.
I'm never, and they are never watching this. My kids are never watching this film. I wrote it down. I made it absolutely clear. There's no way. No way.
I started thinking, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that like Quentin Tarantino magicked up a movie so he could.
Oh, it's been a couple of episodes. Well done, Dave.
Nice.
Tarantino wrote a whole movie so he could rewrite history, go back in time, and save Sharon Tate and give her the future that she should have had.
Right, yes.
I felt like doing that for this little girl in this bloody painting in The Witches. I was like, somebody needs to go back in time and save this little girl. Make a sequel, do like Ready Player One, where someone goes into fiction and saves this girl. Because I think it will resonate with people of our age.
Yeah.
It's like, we finally saved this little girl from the witches.
I was there in Erica's house 6 weeks later.
Good day, Fran Larson.
Come in, Helga. Have some cake.
I was her best friend when it all happened. Then that day, while Erica's mother was pouring the coffee, her father came walking towards us. It was as if though he had seen a ghost. His face was all twisted up as he walked towards the painting behind me. There, as if it always had been there, was Erica, locked in the painting, gazing at us.
Right, after that harrowing sequence, we're introduced to the grandmother's relationship to the son. His parents sadly pass away.
As you're hit over the head with the murdered child, and then all of a sudden you're smashed over the head with the kid's parents dying.
Yeah, kids'
It's
parents
relentless.
dying has no impact these days, though, does it? It's like,
Well,
we've
I
seen it with
suppose
Bruce
not.
Wayne, we've seen it with
Yeah,
Luke.
yeah.
Bruce Wayne, yeah. True.
Dead parents is par for the course in these sort of origin stories.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But I also remember that I had a pretty close relationship with my grandmother when I was a kid, and I remember watching this movie, thinking about her. And do you guys have a relationship with your grandmothers, or
not like this?
No.
I mean, yeah.
I was tight with my grandmother. Like we were bang on tight. So like this, I was like, this reminded me of her in a big way.
Okay.
Did your grandmother like strike up big old fat cigars while she was regaling stories to you? Because that was a surprise in this movie. She just
that was a surprise.
She loves a stogie.
So sort of, my grandmother was a big smoker, but used to hide away in the garage and smoke. She'd go out to the garage and then come back. She wouldn't let me see her smoke. But as a child, I always used to be
little
like,
roll-ups.
What's that smell?
Dave, where you gone, Dave?
Yeah. I used to be like, what's that smell, Gran? She used to have to just make excuses because I didn't know. So that it was nice to remember my grandmother watching this movie, and so we then go to the. Why did they go to the hotel? I don't actually know. Why did they go to the hotel?
Just going on holiday, aren't they?
Yeah, they make some.
Yeah,
they make some comment about they're staying in England for a bit before going back to America. And I think it's because she falls ill. I think she's getting away with a quote mild case of diabetes.
Yeah,
which I didn't know you could suddenly come down with a mild case of diabetes. Maybe you can. I'm not a doctor.
That's type 2 diabetes, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Fine. But yeah, so they go to Faulty Towers for a little holiday, and
they do go to Faulty Towers.
Yeah.
I mean, as part of maybe before we get too far into the podcast, I mean, part of the reason this was so big in England and really resonates in England, because I don't think people outside of England really know this film. I don't think it's in the pop culture. It wasn't a big hit. Is because it's Roald Dahl, and Roald Dahl is like, if you're listening and you're under the age of, 30, this was the J.K. Rowling of our time.
Oh, steady.
Yeah.
Roald Dahl was the J.K. Rowling of our generation.
Yeah, actually.
Right, okay, well, that works.
Yeah. Well, even with the problematic views, he was doing it back then as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you look into it.
Speaking of...
Yeah.
Because the way the grandma is describing witches, I did wonder, and it was a fleeting thought, is witch a sort of metaphor for something racist?
Oh.
That I couldn't determine quite what it was. She was sort of... The way she was describing it, it's quite a racist description.
Real witches have no toes. Their feet have square ends, revolting stumps where their toes should be. So they never wear pointed or pretty shoes, just plain, sensible shoes. Remember these things.
And watch out for them. And I was just wondering if it was like, watch out for the Jews, or watch out for the Germans.
Okay,
was Roald Dahl trying to say something like on the slide?
I think knowing Roald Dahl's history, it probably absolutely is, don't you?
Right. I don't know.
I don't want to besmirch Roald Dahl's good name. I mean, I'm not. I know that he had some problematic views, but I'm not actually clued up on what they were or what he said. So I can't.
Just make it up. We're not clued up about anything.
Just make it up.
Well, I mean, it's kind of on the same subject, Fish, in that this movie came out in 1990.
Did it?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Witches, obviously, have had a transformation in terms of what we think of as a witch, and they're not ugly monsters with no hands and no feet anymore. Witches are kind of cool, right?
They're beautiful, aren't they? Yeah.
There are women that call themselves witches today quite happily, and it's not really frowned upon. It's not really got a stigma. It's kind of like this Wicca thing. It's kind of just a fun thing that some people are into, isn't it? I think. So and it changed. The perception changed pretty quick, because in 1996 we had The Craft, which was when they were a bit gothy, a bit emo, weren't they? But
Sexy
then very
witches.
soon after that, what?
Sexy witches.
Yeah.
It's like the whole vampire thing, sexy vampires became a thing.
Yeah, but that was a thing. But then very quickly we got to wholesome Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and we got to like Charmed, where it was just some fun sisters that liked a bit of magic.
Yeah.
And then Willa in Buffy. Who didn't like her? Willow, sorry. Willow, sorry.
Yes.
I've been watching too much Succession.
I was going to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's an element of prejudice. Yes, it's just sort of, it is shorthand language for other, isn't it? I think that's what Fisher's getting at. It's for evil other.
Okay.
It didn't occur to me while watching it. This came to me afterwards, because while I watched it, the woke police siren didn't go off in my head at any point. But afterwards, I was like, "Oh, witches! Yeah, people. Let's make that." There's probably people that would take offence to this depiction of witches now. You know,
I actually think they did change it. You know that the whole people are up in arms about the posthumous editing of Roald Dahl's books. They've rewritten elements of them, and I think the description of the witches is one of them.
I was not aware of this.
Jim's looking confused. So there was a bit of controversy, I believe, late last year or even this year, Jim, that they were republishing Roald Dahl's books and taking out offensive language. Yes, particularly around fat people, which is there's a lot of fat shaming in Roald Dahl books
in this movie. Yeah, okay.
And also people's and also descriptions of ugliness and just, like in the twits, I believe, came up that they were toning down the description of the twits, because I believe they were making fun of big noses and things like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the only one I can find right now is in Dahl's original version of The Witches, women were described as being supermarket cashiers or letter writers for businessmen. In the new edition, women are top scientists or business owners themselves. That's fine. I'm not bothered about that. But I do remember a change. It's something to do with witches wear wigs, and then they sort of add an addendum, which is like, and that's fine to wear wigs. Some men wear wigs as well. And some women wear wigs. And it's all a bit weird and pandering, and that's why people don't like the changes.
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of it, and I think it's weird.
It is weird. Yeah, just leave it alone.
I think initial reaction is, oh, God, society's crumbling.
Snowflakes.
Exactly. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, it's probably, if you're being honest with yourselves, if you were a parent reading the story to the kids, you'd probably reach in and do these sort of corrections yourself anyway.
Well, I can testify. We're currently reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to my eldest, and we have just been brushing over some of the vicious fat shaming that's been happening. Like the owner of the sweet shop was fat and sweaty because he ate all the chocolate. Brr, and you're like, okay, I don't really want to read this out loud. So I kind of get it.
Yeah,
so I think there's a fine line there. I don't quite know.
That seems like lazy parenting, to be honest. I think you should be inserting like your own sort of Disney disclaimers while you're reading it.
Okay, yeah. I'll try that next time.
Have time for that. They're half asleep.
Sorry, I didn't mean that. I know you're not a lazy parent.
Thanks for the tips, Jim.
Yeah. It's a spin-off podcast series coming soon.
Lazy
Jim's
parenting.
Guide to Parenting.
Yeah, I like it. There's a pit. Right, listen up, Patreon subscribers. It's coming.
The original point I was raising is, did you guys read Roald Dahl, and was he instrumental in your childhood in the same way he was for me? Because yes. I read every Roald Dahl book as a kid. I had lots of Roald Dahl books read to me. Jim?
Yeah, I think... I don't know. I don't remember a lot from when I was a kid, to be fair. I mean, I'm pretty sure...
Yeah. It was all the vodka they were putting in his milk bowl.
I'm pretty sure I read like James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Twits and the BFG, but I don't have any strong memory of doing so.
Do you not?
No.
I remember that these Roald Dahl's books burned big impressions in me. I remember like a weird one that really resonated with me, Fish, was Danny, Champion of the World. That one really stuck with me, which is about a kid and his dad, and they get pheasants with raisins, don't they? But do you know any ones for you, Fish, that you remember vividly?
I think the big one was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for me.
Or George's Marvelous Medicine was also.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like you say, they were embedded. They were just the massive childhood books, weren't they? Yeah.
And without getting too rosy-eyed and nostalgic and teary, I do wonder if kids these days have these kind of shared experiences. Like, is there something that all kids have now that binds in the way that Roald Dahl books did for us as 30-year-old men, or men in their late 30s, early 40s in our generation? Because I do think it binds. I don't know whether there is something like that now. Do you think? What are you reading your kids, Fish?
Well, Roald
other than
Dahl.
Roald Dahl books. Roald Dahl, yeah.
Yeah. They're the first sort of big kid books, I suppose, that we're getting through. The originals, by the way.
Yeah, and I also think in this age where people struggle to, identify something as British without it being problematic, and Roald Dahl books, I think, is something you can latch onto and go, that is a British thing that we do in Britain. We read our kids Roald Dahl books.
All right, Farage, move on.
Yeah.
Just
right,
how
moving
you
on.
pronouncing Dahl there, Dave?
I'm probably wrong given my track record.
Are you saying it?
Roald Dahl.
That's right.
Oh, okay, sorry. It sounded like you were saying Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl.
I just thought there was some pronunciation I wasn't aware of.
Well, no. Okay, so they get to the hotel because randomly, yeah. And then we are introduced to Rowan Atkinson. Did you guys remember he was in this?
I did.
I'd forgotten.
Is this your room?
Yes.
Yes.
I see. I'm sorry, madam, but I cannot permit mice in my hotel.
How dare you say that when your rotten hotel is full of rats anyway?
Rats? There are no rats in this hotel.
This was the same year he did Bean, so before he was famous.
Yeah, he's still wearing his fucking costume from Bean, isn't he?
It is the Bean costume.
It's
yeah,
very,
weird, isn't it?
Very beanie.
Doesn't really have a lot to do in the movie. I guess he wasn't a big star, like I said, but I don't think he really...
He's just
doesn't
doing a
really
Basil
shine.
Fawlty, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just there
He
to
is
be
just doing a
Basil
Basil
Fawlty.
Yeah.
Also, like, the thing that weirded me out with his whole character was this, like, weird relationships he's got going on with his staff members.
He's having an affair with just the one, isn't it?
Was it just one?
I think it was just
I believe
one.
so.
Oh, okay. It just seems so unnecessary to the plot, don't you? Like,
It was a bit odd. Yeah.
It was a bit odd.
yeah.
But you got to give the actors something to work with.
Well, I
Like,
guess
they,
so,
need,
yeah.
they want something. Give me some meat here. What's my motivation?
It's one for the
You know.
dads.
What for the dads? bit of blue for the dads.
So should we just get straight to the big scene then? So this is the scene we all remember when Anjelica Huston comes in and turns into the Grand High Witch. I didn't remember. I did, but I didn't. Same for you guys. I knew it was scary, and I didn't remember just how scary and how disgusting the makeup actually was.
What I enjoyed is that there's like a room of 100 witches, and they clearly only had the budget for one of them to look like that, because 50% of them were just men in wigs.
That's what I was
Did you
thinking you were
spot
going to
that?
say. Yes, so
That's
a
fucking hilarious.
great thing. Yes, it's a fantastic when you notice. It doesn't hurt the movie. It's just a fun
No.
thing. That, yes, most of this audience is men in drag.
Just ugly men in wigs, and then one huge budget blown on her incredible makeup, which is properly scary. Yeah,
And one
She's got a little wispy beard.
One interesting man cameo as well, right?
Oh
No,
Michael Palin.
where?
He's one of the witches.
did not see
Honestly?
that. Did not
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that.
Trivia bomb.
Have a quick Google.
Wow.
You'll see a still.
That's amazing.
Was he just there?
I don't know the story behind it. Not sure. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely there. But I mean, the other thing is, even with the men, the actual ladies that are sitting in the first two rows, their makeup is even pretty shit as well. Like they're just wearing.
I
bald
tell you
caps.
what, though, we didn't talk about it in the opening 20 minutes. That makeup on the witch's hands, I was like, "Wow, that's really good." You know, she like stroking her cat, and I was like, "Doesn't
Yeah,
look
yeah.
cheap." I was like, "Wow, that looks proper
Oh, yeah.
scary." So yeah, there's a lot of makeup that doesn't look good in the crowd with the witch, but you just focus on the Grand High Witch, aren't you? So not only does the witch makeup look incredible, but also the effect leading up to the transformation where she peels her forehead forward is very cool. I don't actually know how they did that because it looks real that she's actually peeling her skin forward.
Yeah.
Very good.
I don't know if they must have put a whole layer on her face and then actually peeled it because there's no
Yeah, I think
seam
it's
that you
like
can see.
Yeah, the
Little
forehead.
trivia nugget that was cut for the UK
Yes.
release to give it a PG rating, I believe,
Yeah, so I did notice a shot.
because of the blood on the forehead, I guess.
Well, the peel was cut.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and there was probably a couple of others as well, but yeah,
There
I
was
know
a shot that
one.
I didn't remember, and I was like, "Oh, that's the cut one." And it's when they actually take the face off, and then the nose kind of comes out. That I didn't remember.
It could be that. I might be mistaken. It could be that one. Yeah.
So here's a question for you: while it's amazing and it's fantastic, is it just fundamentally absolutely crazy that it looks this scary? Like, why did they decide to do this? Because obviously the movie did not make money, and if I see this, I'm probably walking out at this point with my kid. I'm taking my kid and I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I was like, who thought this was a good idea? This is actually bonkers. And obviously they don't do it in the remake. Obviously they don't. They just keep it looking like Anne Hathaway and give her a weird snake mouth and then call it a day.
I haven't seen the remake.
Well, it's terrible. Terrible movie.
Okay.
It's not even a movie. It's this new thing where it's made for streaming. And I think this is part of the problem. I don't want to go on a big tangent or diversion here, but this is part of the reason I don't like modern movies, I think, is because I'm used to a movie being a movie and being made with a certain craft and budget, and that is not what we're seeing now aren't movies. They are different.
Like TV movies.
They're streaming movies, and it's something else. It's not.
Yeah. Okay.
They have.
I appreciate that.
But you're right, though, Dave. I don't know their thought process behind this and making it look so scary, because, you know, we are of the generation of, you know, children that were terrified by this movie. Like, I remember, like, you know, and it just gets burnt into your brain so strongly. There's this, and then when Bruno gets turned into a mouse, which we'll get to, but both of those transition scenes are just... and when she gets turned into a mouse at the end as well.
Also horrific. All horrific.
Just
horrible. I'm a little bit more... so let's just go back to... Let's go to the turning into the mouse thing. So that is also horrific, yeah. But then when I was watching it, I was like, I don't think there was a way in 1990 to show a boy turning into a mouse and it not be horrific. Like, if you're actually going to do it with a puppet,
right?
If you don't just cut away and cut back, if you're actually going to show a transformation, I don't think you can do that without it looking horrific and terrifying.
No, they cut away and cut back when Luke gets turned, actually. It's funny that Bruno gets the horrific one.
There's still enough of Luke turning that it's a bit scary.
Just about. It's not as horrific as Bruno.
But yeah, we've already had the one transformation. We don't need to see it again.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see that little fat fucker turn into a mouse, don't they?
We haven't talked about Bruno. Because we don't talk about Bruno. I was actually reminded quite a bit, and it makes sense, obviously, because it's Jim Henson, of the Dark Crystal, and she looks a bit like a Skeksis.
She does. I've had the same thought.
I tell it! Trial by stone. Trial by stone! Trial by stone! Slaves, reap the stone! Get out there!
Yeah, so going back to the Grand High Witch makeup and it being absolutely terrifying, yeah, not really sure why they made it this scary. There's some cool stuff here that I didn't remember. So when she does transform, the lights are flickering behind her. Did you notice this? And they're kind of flashing some white light on her. And that kind of adds to it. It makes me think what the cinematography being a bit flat, because if it just been darkened down and contrasted, that would have made more of an impact. But yeah, the lights are flashing on her. And the camera kind of pulls back, and it just makes it all a bit more scary and dramatic. And then we're revealed that the plot of the movie is the witches want to turn... I was also nightmares, terrified, was when she burns that one witch. I remember really...
Oh, yeah.
Edge of my seat when she, like, when the woman says something, and then it's this tense moment. She's like, who said that? And I remember, like, as a kid being absolutely terrified and go, oh my God, what is going to happen? And then she looks at her and burns her and ash, and terrifying.
We can't possibly wipe out all of it.
Who spoke? Who dares to argue with me? It was you?
I didn't mean to argue, Your Grandness.
You dared to argue with me?
No, honestly, it just was a...
A stupid witch who answers back must burn until her bones are black. The devil!
It's like Hook.
Yeah.
Goes in the boo box.
Oh, in the boo box.
The boo box.
The boo box.
That's Glenn Close, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And I also, don't make me do my Hook Dustin Hoffman impression, because it's a favourite.
Well, you have to do it now.
I love it. I'm going to do it, Smee. I'm going to do it, Smee. I am going to do it. Don't try and stop me, Smee. Don't try and stop me, Smee. I am going to pull the trigger, Smee. Don't try and stop me. Smee, try and stop me. Smee, try and stop me.
Spade, you better get up off your ass. Get over here, Spade. I'm coming. Spade, this is not a joke. I'm committing suicide.
Don't ever scare me like that again, Spade.
We've jumped ahead 4 years.
Well
to
done.
That's great.
I love it.
Excellent.
One of
That's very
Dustin
good.
Hoffman's greatest.
I mean, can you imagine? Right. So, first of all, one thing that I was surprised about this scene is how early on it was in the film, because it stands
It's a
out.
blissfully short movie.
It's
I think
a
we're halfway in.
But I seem to remember this scene coming much later in the movie, and it's great that it comes so early. The other thing is, it's a really long scene, right? This scene lasts for like what, 10 minutes, maybe?
Yes.
Right?
I have a theory as well on this, but go on. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, again, not that au fait with shooting schedules, but I'm guessing, 10-minute scene, it's at least 10 days, 15 days maybe of shooting, potentially. And Anjelica Huston is in this makeup for, 12 hours a day. Like, incredible props to her for, going through
Jim, I actually found an interview with Anjelica Huston. It was 3 weeks she was in this makeup. Then they filmed this
3
scene.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, she said the hardest thing was the long fingers because she couldn't actually go to the bathroom.
Okay.
So she needed help to use the bathroom.
Yeah, like they're about a foot long, those fingers. Yeah.
She had a handler to take her to the bathroom. I don't know how that worked. But did you guys watch many Anjelica Huston films? Because even the big film fan I am, I haven't really. I know she's in Chinatown.
Addams Family. That's it, really, I think.
She's done a bunch of movies that I just haven't got around to seeing, but she's Hollywood royalty, you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her dad's John Huston, a very famous director.
Oh, she was in the Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums, of course. Yeah, I love that movie. But yeah, she is Hollywood royalty. She's fantastic in this, though. Like, amazing.
Yes, she is. Very good.
Yeah.
And there's something camp about this movie, isn't there? There's something larger than life.
Yeah.
And she's a type of actress that has that camp appeal in the same way that like Cher does. I can't really explain it or articulate it, but there is, not just because there's loads of men in drag in this, but there's something larger than life and a bit camp about this movie. Yeah, I just think there's something about big female performances that go hand in hand with camp, isn't there? It's almost like it's a drag act that we're watching.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the shot of her when she gets up on stage at this meeting, kind of whips her cloak off, is almost the exact same shot from the Rocky Horror Picture Show where Frankenfurter whips his cloak off.
Okay.
So it's almost like a shot-for-shot remake
Interesting.
of that, which is...
Okay.
So Jim's saying the scene's really long. I don't know this. I couldn't find it on IMDb, but it really... when they find Luke... And then he runs out of the room, he smashes a window, there's like a Battleship Potemkin homage where a baby carriage goes down the side of a cliff and like he stops or Untouchables fish. There's a baby carriage that goes down a cliff and he has to stop it. And then they eventually catch him and then they're right back in the room with all the witches again. I was like, was that whole sequence just a reshoot where they're like, we need to add a bit more action to this movie and we need to like... because it feels like it just end up straight back in the room.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
You said that.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that whole sequence was added in.
Yeah, they were just like, this is too long, this scene. We need to break it up somehow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think about whether I was watching it, but I think you might be right.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't see it on IMDb, but it feels like it was a reshoot. Once this sequence ends and the boys are transformed into mice, I agree that the movie takes its foot off the gas a little bit and isn't as entertaining, but it is still pretty good.
I think this is where it becomes a proper kids
That's
movie.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It loses all its horror and its darkness, and it becomes a mouse adventure where they're just trying to poison a soup, And it's like, okay, yeah, this is what I remember being a kid, just enjoying this bit of the film. But as an adult, it's pretty dull.
Yeah, I will say, so let's talk about the kids. I do think it's very hard, obviously, to get child actors that are good. Many a film director has come unstuck, Lucas, by miscasting children.
Jesus Christ. I'll do a supercut, honestly.
Well, that guy has suffered quite a lot, and I feel for him as an adult. But
I'm not even talking about Jake Lloyd. Talk about that other prick. Fucking child. What are they? I'm ranting now and I'm going off piste, right? But when Anakin walks into the room of, quote, younglings.
Oh, wait, let me see if I can remember.
Go on.
Did somebody delete it from the database?
No, that's Attack of the Clones.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another horrific example. But this one is, Master Anakin, there's too many of them. What are we going to do? And then he lights up his lightsaber, and then it cuts.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
I don't remember that kid giving a bad line reading, but okay. Yeah, okay.
It's the worst line reading. I'm pretty sure it's like one of the director's sons as well.
Right.
He just couldn't even be bothered. I'm ranting. Sorry, guys.
Calm down.
Hate that bit.
Take a Xanax.
These kids are pretty good. I while watching the movie, I did think that, what's his name?
Bruno.
The fat one. Bruno.
Don't
I did
call
think
him the
Bruno
fat one.
did remind me of what. Oh, he is, isn't he? He did remind me of a little young Boris Johnson, and that made me giggle.
That's
and
interesting.
through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to refer to him as Bojo for the rest of this podcast. I think it's so funny how he is fat, and that's his whole character.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And even when he's a mouse, to get him to do anything, they have to promise him dry roasted peanuts.
Yeah,
'cause that's the only way he will. He will.
Pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, we've talked about like the whole fat shaming thing and the fact that it's not right, but it is like the one and only joke with it, but they just keep going with it. It's like even as a narrative device, it really runs thin runs fat after a while.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The mice puppets are phenomenal, though. They're very good. And
are they?
Again, reminded why. Yeah, they are, because you know what? I was again reminded that I wouldn't have it any other way. I'd much rather be staring at these mice puppets than I would
100%.
CGI mice.
100% agree. Yeah. You don't need them to look like real mice. It's fine that they're puppets. It's fine.
Yeah. They built free mice, they built mini mice, and they built sort of semi-big mice, and then they built full-size people mice.
Great.
Yeah. So there was a full-size human mouse. Did you guys know that Jim Henson sadly died after this movie at the age of 53?
Yeah.
Literally after this movie was released.
Yeah, this was his last film.
Wow.
Well, there's a bit of, maybe his last film. There something else that came out around the same time where he'd made it before, but it got released afterwards or something.
Oh,
that was this one.
This was the last one he was involved in.
This was like made in like 89 or something, and it was delayed. I remember reading it.
So I think he made another film after this, but it got released. No, wait, yeah. There's some confusion there. What his last film was.
Sure.
It's not important. Carry on.
Well, I didn't know the circumstances of his death, and he actually died from a lung infection, and I had a lung infection, had to go on antibiotics, and it was pretty serious, and it was weird to think.
Sadly, Dave's still with us. Sorry, Dave.
But it was weird to think that was something. I knew it was bad. I was in a bad way, but it was obviously I just took antibiotics and I was okay. But then, weird to think that obviously that could have killed me in days gone by. You know, I never really thought about it like that. But yeah, he died just from a lung infection, bacterial. Didn't go to the doctors soon enough. Didn't get any antibiotics, and
he was breathing in all that Muppet hair constantly.
I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Well, yeah. Right. Why don't we like the mice? Fish has been quite articulate about it.
I like the mice. Oh, do you mean this section of the film?
This section
of
the
the
movie.
I just thought it really dragged. It was sort of... I felt like there was more interest in what the witches were doing than these mice running around floorboards. Just a bit dull.
I think there's no... Yeah,
Also,
there's no real jeopardy.
Yeah, and also they put the grandma in a coma, and she's quite an interesting character. So they just shut her character down and just have two mice running around, plus Rowan Atkinson occasionally. It's...
I mean, you know, I'm not saying we rewrite the book, but I think there needed to be some danger on the mice, some ongoing threat.
There was a cat.
Because they have like one encounter. Yeah, but the cat isn't chasing them for the whole... I think the cat needed to be there the whole time. You know what I mean? Constant threat. danger. There's not really a ticking clock, is there? Because Jim's talked about this in the past. We should have been like, they need to get this done before the witches leave. I didn't feel that sense of jeopardy or that we have to do this now.
No, not so much. I mean, they do have to get that potion into the soup before it gets served, don't they? But I don't know.
Yeah, I just think the movie doesn't do a very good idea of selling this idea that tomorrow they're going to open all these sweet shops. It's probably going to take a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
She should have already bought all the sweet shops and had the chocolate bars ready to go. You know what I mean? There was going to be like a grand unveiling of this new chocolate bar that was going to that advertising campaign was going to start, and people were going to be able to go to the shop and buy them. Like
a Willy Wonka tie-in.
Have we mentioned that this was the witch's plan?
The plan is to buy a load of sweet shops.
Have we explained that? That's what the plan was. All the witches would all the witches quit their jobs, buy sweet shops, and they poison the sweets and turn all the kids into mice.
It's just such an unrealistic plan, isn't it? Okay, we need to buy a bunch of sweet shops.
It just makes sense, doesn't it?
While we're talking about things that don't make sense, the big one for me when I watched it is the kids, spoilers, the kids succeed. They turn all the witches into mice. And the staff and Rowan Atkinson walk into the room, see these women turning into mice, and just start murdering them.
Start hacking them away. yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on?
Great.
What does Rowan Atkinson think just happened?
Come on! Get the mice! Get the mice! They're in the coat! Get the coat! One in the wing!
It's like they're living through From Dusk Till Dawn, and like everything just changes, and do a montage of like making all these weapons. They fucking kill them.
Yeah. I think Rowan Atkinson does think he's George Clooney in From Dusk Till Dawn. I don't even know if it's explained in the book. What do the staff of this hotel think has happened that justifies them murdering a load of mice?
Bonkers.
I don't have anything more to say about the witches before categories. Do you guys have anything to say?
I would like to say, because when you played as the trader at the start of the podcast, one of the first images that they show is of I had this when I was a kid, the Ghostbusters fire station, right? And obviously at the end of the movie, this is when Luke gets turned back into a human child, and he kind of bursts out of this Ghostbusters thing. And it's like, what was the choice there? I mean, it felt in the trailer that they were using it to sell the movie. It's like,
because it's one of the only shots of magic that isn't horrific.
Well, not that, but just the fact that it's Ghostbusters, and it was a really popular toy, and it's like, was it just to get kids excited? Like, it's Ghostbusters, and it just sort of drills you in.
I don't know if this is one of the mysteries of the witches, Jim. I did a little Google. A lot of people on YouTube asking this question: what's the deal with the Ghostbusters house? Because they do remove the Ghostbusters logo,
right?
From the so it isn't on the toy. And on the behind the scenes, Jim, of the witches, one of the prop makeups guy has a poster of the Ghostbusters on his wall.
Interesting.
So I think the prop guy was just a massive Ghostbusters fan.
That was it.
And snuck it in.
I don't know, man. It just seems too front and center to be accidental, or I feel like that.
Well,
I don't know. I think this was product placement.
I don't think they officially licensed out it, and I don't think the Witches is paying royalties to Dan Aykroyd. Do you know what I mean?
All right.
I think they've snuck it in.
You've been listening to the 90s Repeated, a show put together by three guys in their spare time. I'm paid to be here. They are not. Please help them by joining their Patreon at patreon.com/the90s Repeated. It's time for categories.
First category, best line from the movie.
I remember kids smelling like dog poo made a big impact on me.
Dogs droppings.
Like dogs droppings.
I smell dogs droppings.
Oh, the smell! Yeah, I can smell it as well.
There's a few classic Bojo lines.
Bojo.
That woman promised me 6 chocolate bars.
Oh, God.
That lady promised me 6 whole bars of cream whipped hazelnut milk chocolate.
Oh, that little fat fucker.
The fat jokes just keep on coming.
Do we know what this guy's doing now, this actor?
We do. He's on LinkedIn. If you guys out there want to track him down.
Oh, great.
He's a lawyer at Brunswick Group. There you go. I mean, it's public information.
Never acted again.
Do not stalk this man in the name of this podcast or send him any grief. I don't want it coming back on us. We don't know you, all right? We don't know you.
I don't know you. Who is this? Don't come here. I'm hanging up the phone. Prank caller.
I have one, only because...
Okay.
And this is going to reveal a dark part of my sense of humour, I think. But the Grand High Witch, at one point, says, "Every child should be rubbed out." Disgusting.
Oh, no.
Well, we managed to go the whole episode.
Freeze! Woke police!
Take him away, boys. He's over there. Drag him away.
Just seems very inappropriate, that's all.
Every child in England shall be rubbed out.
Mm-hmm.
I have a favourite line.
Yeah.
And this is, again, this has stuck with me. If there was only one line I could quote from The Witches, it's this one. And it's Anjelica Huston, the Grand High Witch. She's a bit excited. Child is no longer a child. Child is a mouse. Love it.
Yes, very good. It's very good.
Child is no longer a child. Child
It's a mouse!
Next category: nitpicks and shitbits. There's probably quite a few, so let's keep it light.
Why does he have mice? Why does he have pet mice? There's no reason for him to have the pet mice.
Yeah, his grandmother bought them for him after his parents died. It's a little...
Yeah, but plot-wise, why does he have them?
What do you mean?
Why does he have the mice? Why does he bring them to the hotel? It serves no purpose for the plot.
There is no
Jim.
pets. He wants to bring mice.
Jim, this is script writing 101.
And he gets to meet his
There has to be a
He gets
reason.
to meet his pets as a mouse.
Yeah, and all it does is show us what the puppet mice look like compared to the real mice, doesn't it? It's like we don't. Why are we highlighting this difference?
He needs a reason to be in the conference room, and that reason is he's doing his circus thing under a table in the conference room.
Okay,
with the mice.
Thanks. That's the explanation I was looking for.
There we go.
I guess it would have been better if he'd have been given like a kitten or a cat as a pet, and then when he turned into a mouse, his cat's like chasing his
and then that could have come back.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Jim, well done. Good note. We should be a new category: studio notes.
Studio notes.
We'll do that from now on. I mean, we're giving studio notes throughout the whole podcast.
Well,
if I could give one note, it would be sack the cinematographer. Sorry.
On that, just quickly on that, because I forgot to mention it. Did you catch the intro with that shot over the mountains?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I was worried that you were going to think, oh, is a cold sweat going down Fish's neck? Does he think Elfman's going to do the music?
It looked like
one?
Michael J. Fox was the camera operator. He was like, what's going on? It was horrendous, like a helicopter shot over the Norwegian mountains. Oh, fuck.
Still, Michael, now streaming on Apple TV, if anyone would like to know the tragic, uplifting tale of Michael J.
I did actually
Fox's,
write down that I thought the titles were good. You know, the way they're kind of tracking towards the camera through these mountains. They don't have any kind of like symbiosis with the actual film, though. It's just a really random kind of mountain shot. It's like the opening of The Shining.
It looked like stock footage, if I'm honest. Yeah.
And I know we're talking about nitpicks and shitpicks, but I had nitpicks and shitbits. But I actually had another good thing I wanted to point out about this movie, because we were talking earlier about when Anjelica Huston like pulls her forehead skin down. Pretty cool little transition. But later on, did you guys notice when she's putting her face back on, they do a really cool like transition where somebody passes in front of the camera and she's like putting a mask on, and then it's actually Anjelica Huston. It was like fucking like Mission Impossible style effects, man. It was awesome.
Very good.
Yeah. You're right, actually. Where Tom Cruise got the idea was when watching this movie.
Next category is recast this.
I want to know, did Culkin audition for this?
Very Culkin, isn't
Did
it?
he get a call up?
It's a Culkin role, that, isn't it?
I feel
It's the same year as Home
must
Alone.
have tried,
I wonder if he was
surely.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe he'd already landed Home Alone. They couldn't get him. I don't know. The kids could be better.
Get Chunk from the Goonies in.
Chunk.
Get Feldman. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if Feldman was in this.
Oh, no.
It would have been a classic. It would have been an absolute classic. It is a classic, but Feldman elevates anything.
I do think, though, right, so I know that at the time when this movie came out, like, it was supposed to be very British and all the actors were very kind of, so you had Rowan Atkinson, Jane Horrocks, who I think was absolutely fabulous. She was kind of...
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
in that. But I just feel that they could have done better casting for everyone else apart from Anjelica Huston. I thought she's amazing. But
I like the grandmother.
I just feel they could have got somebody better.
She's okay. But yeah, I mean, like, if you've got, it's not Judi Dench, is she? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Put Judi Dench in there as the grandmother.
Who plays these characters in the remake?
That's a good question.
Is it anyone significant?
Well, they diversified the cast, so it's don't go. Oh no. So in the remake, they got Octavia Spencer as the grandma, and they got Stanley Tucci as the hotel owner, which in itself is not bad casting. But yeah, I hated it. Because I think if you're going to diversify the cast, then diversify the whole story. Do you know what I mean? It was very strange. Anyway, moving on. What's the next category, Fish?
The next category, kill the lead.
If they killed old Luke and Bojo took over, I would have been all right with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
or killed the grandma in true Force Awakens, Star Wars fashion.
Not necessarily a death, but get those two annoying kids stuck in a painting and then let the adults sort it out. That would have been more entertaining, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So the grandma versus the Grand High Witch.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got to save the kids who are stuck. Yeah, I'm up for that. Do that.
Yeah, you're right.
Throw another 20 million quid at it. Turns out the grandma's a witch. Twist.
What?
Yeah, the grandma is this is not what happened, Dave. We hypothesized.
A good witch.
Like half witch, like Blade.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like this Blade. Is all sounding a bit like the Strained TV show. Have you ever watched it? It's very similar to this.
All right.
Nope. Right, carry on.
Next category, food from the movie. What looks appetizing? Oh,
There's a lot of food. None of it looks appetizing.
Fish paste sandwiches. Get a shout out, which I haven't heard since the 90s. Fish paste. Oh, fuck, gross. I can actually taste it now.
Fish paste.
Grandma, you got the wrong one.
Oh, no. Sugar.
Grandma, sugar can kill you.
I know, but it was very little, my dear.
Fish paste is British. They wanted to change it to tuna fish.
Excellent.
And Roald Dahl went absolutely mental and said, "You're not changing this."
Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl.
Dahl. Oh, for goodness sake.
You're hearing it now too, right, Chris?
Cut.
It's not just me.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. It's Roald Dahl.
Oh, God. Carry on.
I want to eat... I want to eat that little fat kid. He must be so tender.
What?
Tender.
Jesus.
You want to rub him out?
Call the police.
Now, the next category, and I think this film is crying out for this, a musical number.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean...
Could have done with one. The Witches could have sung a nice song.
Definitely. Like some
an
sort
evil little tune, like a Disney
evil
villain.
Chant, like an evil prayer to the High Witch or something.
Yeah, that would be good.
Bubble, bubble, toil.
Would have added
trouble.
to the camp factor as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Big time.
What a waste.
Or it could have been that, witches, they kind of don't like children singing, and the kids could have sung a little song, and they all could have been.
This would work really well as like a Disney kind of musical. You could easily spin a few songs out of this. Was there? If there's, tell you what, if they could do a witches stage production in London.
I feel like there was a witches stage production. No,
was there?
Don't think so. There should have been. If there isn't, let's have a look.
Oh God.
National Theatre, The Witches. Musical version of Roald Dahl's Timeless Tale, Jim. You are right.
There you go.
What's the date on that?
Oh, that's coming though, right?
Is it?
Oh my God,
we are on the ball.
This November.
There you go.
Way. I'll tell you what. We imagined it and it happens.
Wow, look at that. We've got influence. We're influencers. Guys, we're influencers.
Kathleen Kingsley's the Grand High Witch. Just don't know who she is, do you?
Oh yeah, double K.
Oh, KK.
Okay,
Careful now. We're not Roald Dahl.
The next category is the Bechdel test. And I think this is going to open up a bit of a conversation here, because I think it might technically pass, although I'm not entirely sure if it does.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Of course it passes.
Why does it pass? Go on.
The Grand High Witch is talking to all these other females.
Yeah.
About killing children.
Are they named characters?
Yeah. So are they named characters, though?
Well, you've got the Grand High Witch, and then what's her assistant called?
I don't know if she's named.
She's definitely named.
Is she named, though?
Oh, she has to be.
And also, does the Bechdel test count if they're witches? Do they have to be human women?
You mean
where's the
most
rules,
of those witches
man?
are men?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes, yeah. Half of the witches in that room are men.
I'm just looking if it does pass. There is actually a website called BechdelsTest.com.
Is there not a scene where the grandmother and the Grand High Witch interact?
Yeah, when they're messing with the cat and the string.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
they
think
do.
they-
It
it
does
does
pass.
pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're counting witches as women. Which I'm not sure you
Witches are women, Fish. Get with it.
Ugh.
Yeah, it does pass as officially by the BechdelsTest.com.
I can't believe we've been talking about the Bechdel test for the entirety of this podcast and talk about it every week, and you've only just informed us that there is a resource we can go to check the validity of our decisions.
What the fuck is this? Like, are all the films on there?
Every movie's on there, yeah.
Then what the hell are we doing?
Well, it's more fun to ask ourselves if it passes.
Yeah, but let's
before we go there.
cross-reference it.
But we should always
Well,
check, yeah.
We will cross-reference it in future, yeah.
Yeah. Would this movie be better non-linear?
It kind of is non-linear, just to point out there, because we do start in the past and come back to the present.
You do.
How else would you mix it up, Fish?
I mean, you'd have the mouse chatting at the beginning. And then
3 months earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
How did we get here?
Yeah. Dave's cardinal sin. Yeah.
Look at these talking mice. How did we get here? Oh, I don't know. I would, you know what? If the movie had opened and it had been a little mouse sat in a chair with a storybook and gone, "Hi everybody, you'll never guess how I ended up in this situation."
I'd watch that.
And had him narrate the movie, I might have been down for that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
the movie narrated by little Stuart Little. Yeah, as far back as I can remember. I've always been a mouse.
Next category. Does another movie do this better? So, which movies? That's not a question.
Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus does a lot of this better. That was the movie that I kept thinking about, actually. If I was going to show a kid a movie about witches, I'm showing him Hocus Pocus.
I wrote a few down. We've got, this is just a random selection. Of course, let's start with the big hitter, Harry Potter. Plenty of witches in there. All good witches, I think, actually. Oh no, Bellatrix Lestrange is a bad witch, isn't she?
Yeah.
I'm not a Harry Potter fan, so I don't know, but I wouldn't call that a witch movie. That's like... You know,
It is a witch movie.
It's a witch and wizard movie.
It is definitely.
Fuck off.
What you can't see, listeners, is that Jim's also wearing a wife beater.
Jim's decided to take his clothes off. I don't quite know what's going on. Jim has taken all his clothes off and is rubbing his nipples. I don't know what's happening.
Fuck off. Brilliant.
Go on, carry on with your list.
Another one. Witches of Eastwick.
I would, yeah, I like that movie.
Better.
I think it's better.
Creepy.
The Craft is better.
Yeah, we've
as
already
well,
discussed
but,
the
The
Craft.
Craft, yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit tenuous. The Blair Witch Project.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we say the first horror movie you'd show a child? We have talked about this before, but I couldn't remember what we were talking about. We did, I think, way back on our original podcast, we talked about the first horror movie you'd show a kid.
I don't remember this conversation.
Not the first one you'd want. You weren't there, Fish. I remember me and Jim talked about it, but I can't remember
what we were talking about.
why we were talking about the first horror movies you would show a kid. I think it was Jurassic Park. That's why we were talking about Jurassic Park. That's what it was,
okay. Right.
We were saying Jurassic Park is kind of the first horror movie you'd watch.
And to our lovely listeners, if you want to hear that Jurassic Park episode, it's over on our Patreon. Ha ha ha! There it is.
Patreon exclusive.
It is exclusive.
We haven't suggested any other horror movies you'd show a kid. Is it Jurassic Park? Is that it? We just show them Jurassic Park.
Oh, you wouldn't show any horror movies to a kid? None. That's mental.
No, all right.
Why are you showing horror movies to a kid?
Have you shown them Jurassic Park yet?
No.
When are you going to?
9.
Ah, that's too old.
Is it fuck?
Too old. Cruel.
But okay, so what about just other horrors for kids? Because there are like
Dark
surely-
Crystal.
Yeah, Dark
Is
Crystal.
pretty
Labyrinth. Is that
Labyrinth?
would
All
that
the
be
Hensons.
classed as a horror
yeah,
movie?
yeah.
They're pretty
kids?
scary.
Anything?
Yeah,
Henson.
Gremlins.
What about? Okay, no, that's not horror. I was going to say the Goonies, but it's more. No, that's like an adventure.
There is some scary. I used to think
It's like
his face was quite
Temple
scary
of
when I was a
Doom
kid.
as well has got that kind of
Temple of Doom's
vibe.
pretty scary.
Yeah.
We're just going through all the PG-13 films, aren't we?
Yeah, basically. The next category is memorabilia from the movie. What memorabilia would you like from the movie? I want one of them cute animatronic mice.
I want my fucking Ghostbusters firehouse that my parents probably hocked at a car boot for £2.50.
Oh mate, that is tragic. if that's what happened, that is sad. Genuinely sad. Yeah, someone picked it up at a car boot sale. Oh no.
Hey, look, I have a strong suspicion it could still be in their attic. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and find
Go
out.
rooting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the next category is weak and strong, summarising what is weak and what is strong.
Well, we all know what the strongest part of this movie, right? No one's going to disagree.
The Grand High Witch.
Anjelica Huston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I agree with that. The makeup.
Weakest part of the movie, I've lambasted it, is that bloody cinematographer. Get him off this movie.
Yeah.
Get him gone.
We talked earlier about recasting it. I think we could have recast it to make it better. But apart from the little kid playing Bruno, I thought most of the actors in this film were quite good. Like they were doing the best with the material they had, I think.
Sure.
So I think the cast were actually the strongest part of this movie.
Yeah.
I might also throw for your consideration the whole sort of plot around the child getting locked in the painting, because that really stuck.
Oh, that's been the strongest bit.
Yeah, because it stuck with me for years and years and years. Probably every 3 or 4 years I'd think about it and it'd give me the willies. And, and then I'd forget about it again. For
you know what? That's what you want, isn't it? Memorabilia from the movie. Get me one of those paintings.
Oh, there you go.
That'd be cool.
You had that on the wall. Imagine that. Someone
Yeah.
came around and had that from the Witches. So they'd be like, bloody hell, it's that bloody painting from the Witches. Imagine if, you know what? Someone needs to do it as like a proper art installation where it does change every day. Like it's like an LCD
cool,
screen.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Approved.
Yeah.
Right, next category. Remake, sequel, or Paul Feig gender swap. So
we've had the remake, haven't we?
They've done the remake. Does it also gender swap, the remake, at any point?
No,
Or is
it race swaps, which is basically
right. Okay,
kind of the same vibe.
Now, I was thinking while I was watching this, there's loads to play with for a sequel, and in fact, it quasi sets one up at the end.
It does, yeah.
With they open there's a big trunk and there's the Grand High Witch's address book, which apparently has every phone number of every witch in America in it.
Yeah.
So there's your sequel, isn't it?
America? Yes. We've got to go home. Because, look! It was the Grand High Witches, and it has the name and address of every witch in America.
Fumbled our way to the end here. What's the legacy of this movie? It's quite strong.
In England, it's really strong.
Yeah. It spawned a remake.
I feel like it was on TV all the time when I
Yeah, I
was a
think
kid.
that's what it was. I think it was on telly an awful lot.
Like I said earlier, it terrified a generation of children. I think that's its legacy.
Yeah.
Like you ask somebody our age, what's your memory of witches? They'll be like, it fucking scared the shit out of me.
And obviously the remake, disappeared as it rightly should have.
I might have to just watch the first half an hour of that out of just pure raw interest.
So bad.
Is it really?
Have you seen any of it, Jim?
But it's Robert Zemeckis as well, right?
Yeah, but like I said, it's.
What a fall
I had a
from
weekend
grace.
free. I had a weekend free. I can film something for Netflix. It's like I said, it's that level of. I don't believe there was any kind of real.
And Stanley Tucci, he can do no wrong.
Stanley Tucci's the best part of it, by the way.
There you go.
Right, so yeah. It just feels like everyone had a week free and Netflix had some money kicking around, and it's like, let's just throw this together.
Finishing up with overall opinion of the movie, then. Are we going to give it a star rating out of 10? I'm somewhere between a 6 and a 7, I think. I'm gonna go 6 because I was actually bored halfway through, and that's no good. Yeah, 6 out of 10.
This is one of the only movies that I've gone back and rewatched. Yeah, and I was a little bit disappointed that I rewatched it and that it wasn't as good as I remember, and I felt a bit sad.
Oh.
And that's kind of the first time I felt this way on this podcast.
Oh no!
Where something, I still think it was pretty good. It got better as I went back and watched it again. I watched it like 2 times, and the first time was initial disappointment, and then I watched it again. I was like, actually, this is still pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And blissfully short. So, but yeah, still in my head, the movie was a lot better than it was. So I'd say 6 out of 10.
Okay. Timothy,
I'm gonna go with a 9.5.
9.5, Jim?
No, of course not. It was a fucking massive steaming pile of shit. I'm going.
Where's this come from?
2.5, 3 at best.
What?
Well, this is why I asked what the next category was, because we were talking about the legacy of the movie, and I think everyone remembers this film fondly, but it's like, ask a 40-year-old, have you watched it recently? And then see what they say. Because I was utterly disappointed. I struggled through it. I thought it was awful.
Has he done a 360 from the start of this podcast?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Side by side. Can you smash cut his 2 takes together?
So watching it again was a real treat, real eye-opener and reminder of my childhood. Of course not. It was a fucking massive steaming pile of shit. Utter mouse shit. Fucking amateurs.